All right, looks like everybody has finished their ice cream, so we will call.
I didn't get any ice cream. Wayne, we,
Ice cream, where's the ice cream?
The Klondike bars was in the freezer, did you know?
I didn't realize that.
I can go get us a couple, Wayne.
That was supposed to be two for me.
Wow.
We scream for ice cream, we'll get you one when we finish up. So let me call our recess meeting to order for September 3rd, 2019. And you've had a copy of the agenda for the two items that's on here, so I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor, signify by raising their right hand. That is 4-0, Madam Clerk. We'll move into our first item for decision. It's from Senior Services. Moores Ridge Incorporated contract for a nutrition program presented by Roxanne Powell, Senior Services Director. Roxanne, when did you sneak in?
I snuck in.
Okay. All right.
Push the button. There you go.
I
have a red light.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to meet with you today.
Gentlemen. Thank you. All right, go ahead, Roxanne.
Thank you. So I brought to you today a request for a new provider for our home and community care block, for our home delivered and congregate nutrition program. Our current provider, American Food Services, submitted a letter to us on August 12th, 2019, stating that they are giving a 30-day notice of contract termination. Effective date will be Thursday, September 12th. So we had a 30-day notice to find a new vendor for our services. We have reached out to multiple potential vendors, a total of about 10. We have made a recommendation today for a contract with Moores Ridge. If history, to give you a little bit of history with that, we have worked with Moores Ridge in the past as far back as 2008. Again, we worked with them in 2015-16 fiscal year, at which time they merged with American Food Services and then bowed out to pursue private business. But they are now back and immediately available to assist us. They already have a menu in place and have the delivery capabilities to begin services effective Monday, September 16. Now, I have reached out to the current provider because there is a question of services on Friday, September 13. And American Foods has guaranteed us they will continue that full week so that we do not have to close the program. There's no budgetary effect. We're going to work within the budget that's already established to continue to service the meals. And my recommendation is for approval of such contract.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Roxanne's presentation. Questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, Roxanne, how long is the contract?
It will be from September 16th through June 30th, 2019. So we'll finish this fiscal year.
And so we do have a history with this company somewhat.
Back to 2008. Yes, sir.
You know, in the past, we've had trouble with some of these providers going years and years back. I would feel a little more comfortable maybe to do like a 3-month or something like that to see, you know, that we're getting everything. We had really had a lot of trouble years and years ago with these food vendors. I just don't want to lock us into a whole year program, and is there a way out if they don't produce, or, and I'm sure there is in all this part of the agenda here, but we have had a lot of trouble with years and years ago with the providers for the senior program.
Yes, we have, and so noted. Mr. County Attorney, is there an out in this contract?
We have an out upon 10 days written notice if they fail to provide the services, or we can terminate for no reason on 90 days notice.
No reason on 90 days.
That's fine.
Sound good, Wayne?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
All right, any other comments or questions? All right, hearing none, this is a decision item for us today, so at this time I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, you've heard Wayne's motion to approve and I lost my place. This company that Rhonda told us about.
Morris Ridge.
Morris Ridge.
There
Sorry.
we go. All in favor signify by raising of the right hand. All opposed. So before nothing, Madam Clerk, thank you so much, Rhonda.
Thank you.
Roxanne, appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, we are now moving forth with a discussion item. There were a number of us, or several of us, at the last meeting when we had the presentation of the amendment 20915, ZMA 20915. There were some questions and there's some clarification probably be needed. So Wayne and some of us decided we'd like to have a special meeting to get a little bit more information. So at this time, I'm going to ask Scott and Peter, if you will, to give us another update on ZMA 201905 versed on some of the questions that were asked in the other meeting. I know, Scott, you weren't here, but Peter was, and I know he told you all that good stuff.
He did, sir. Thank you, gentlemen. So I will be brief in my remarks. I know that you've already had some time has been spent on 2019-05. So essentially, just to refresh some memories, in 2004, the Carolina Centers LLC, known as Crescent Communities, petitioned Burke County to rezone approximately 1,122 acres of land. Most of that was off of Highway 126 in the Linville Township into a parallel conditional planned mixed-use district, PRMU CD. In that petition, basically it broke it out into 6 different geographic areas, and when the plan was approved, each geographic area was allowed to do certain things. So when you look at planned residential mixed-use table, there's all sorts of things that are allowed. It almost resembles RMU in a way. So you could have business stuff, you could have commercial stuff, you could have high-density residential stuff, low-density residential stuff, conservation, and on and on. So before us today is really what is left of 2 of those districts. 2 of those districts are East Lake, what was known, or still is known as East Lake 2 and 3. And only in partiality, because some of those have already been developed or have been cut off in different forms. So if you look at the overall picture that has gone on at the lake with the East Lake 1 through 6, I don't think you have a copy of the actual ordinance page that shows the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But Kay, go ahead and put that back. Oh, wait, there it was. So if you see East Lake 1, essentially that is the county park, and it's also the 10 acres for the Deepwater launch from Duke. Obviously, that could be a conservation district, low-density parcel. If you look at number 4 is Dry Creek. Dry Creek developed. If it developed under the conservation district low-density standards, it would easily meet those standards today. If you look at number 6, that was Water's Edge, one of our most recent developments. Water's Edge also developed at 1 dwelling unit to 3.5 acres, the same as conservation district low density. And let me point out that in that particular development, they took full advantage of the waterfront lots, and they made waterfront lots a little over an acre, because the whole value at Lake James is the water, and by far that's where the value of the land is. So on when we were rezoning the planned residential mixed-use development conditional districts, they're allowed 2 years to essentially develop a plan. When you come in with that, you're usually ready to develop it. So you're usually a developer wanting to develop, not a land speculator. So Crescent was a land speculator in so many ways with this plan, and they failed to move forward on actual development of the properties. So since this ran out in 2014, it's been 5 years since the rights have actually been available unless we came and changed it. So as we were looking at planned residential mixed use, and I want to point out with the planned residential mixed use district, that by design and from the title means you're supposed to have a plan, right, for the mixed uses. So we had a whole lot of land across the street that had a PRMU zoning designation without any plan. And so it gave the impression you can do all these things haphazardly like the RMU district. So that's what drove the initial rezonings. The other thing that occurred over here is we'd been talking for 2 or 3 years was to bring some of this into compliance. And that's what brought this request forward. This did go to the planning board, and we did have at length discussions on these items, and staff is still, we still feel strongly that, you know, our request is pertinent and that CDL is the proper zoning for this land. You can do a lot with that. This land, East Lake 2 and 3, what's left of it, has a lot of restrictions when you get in there and you start to develop. So there's a lot of topography issues, and somebody could easily develop pretty good lots along the waterfront areas of those and then conserve lands further back for mini farms or something else. But yeah, we're confident that with what we brought forward. I'm happy to answer any direct questions that you have for staff.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard the presentation. Questions?
I guess, Scott, so what's in here, are we in favor, according to you? I mean, with everything that's going on in here with Mr. Zinso?
Mr. Zinzo is not in favor of the rezoning request.
That you're
Right, the one that we've initiated. He would like another extension of the current zoning. Staff has issues that the current zoning, because of lands being cut out of this property, and the fact that when this was done, there was supposed to be guaranteed sewer. So the numbers don't work at all when it comes to density. And the city of Morganton has indicated that they will not extend sewer out here. They don't want to deal with the costs associated with the pumps that have to go in to pump that sewage, which is probably $2 million for a pump. So because if you can't do that, your numbers are going to drop drastically. We feel that there's essentially 3 options for the land. We think that that it can be zoned to conservation district low density. That's one option. That's the option that we put forth. The other is a 2-year extension for the applicant to come up with some one of the things that he's been working on to see if he can make a sale and make it work. And then if that does not work, that it be rezoned at that time, if he can't get it under contract, to conservation district low density after the 2 years expires. The other thing is to ask that it go back as a new planned residential mixed use conditional district to the planning board with today's realities being brought forth and having a real plan that could be developed in 2 years.
Are we a long ways away from his ideas or whatever, or are we close where we can both parties come together to maybe we have to give a little, maybe he has to give a little, or is there any way to solve this whole thing
So we don't mind doing that, but we don't have a proposal on the table.
at this point?
Yes, sir. We don't have anything we can look at. We don't have a plan that this is what I'm doing, this is what it will cost. These are the units I want to put in. This is the land I want to give you. So everything's what if.
So it's in his ballpark that he has to come up with these recommendations or whatever?
Yes, sir. And it's our belief that the East Lake Development Plan that was written in a different time, in a different place, for different reasons, and through the years, they haven't materialized, and other things have gone on.
So at this time, you're working with him to, I mean, we're working together to try to come up with something to.
So whatever Mr. Zenzow brings something to us, we're happy to look at it, but so far, we don't really have anything that's concrete
Right.
that we could make a recommendation or decision on.
Scott, would you say that this group's had plenty of time to come up with a plan at this point?
It's had a
Because-
long time, yes, sir.
And, you know, you got reputable groups like Foothills Conservancy and whatnot, and, you know, find it difficult to believe you can't come up with an agreement with Foothills or the State Park Service. I've read the materials. Sometimes it seems like we're trying to get buried with materials to get away from the material fact. And the material fact to me is, the bottom line is I feel they've had plenty of time to develop a plan. I also feel, as you said, we can rezone it, and then they can come back to us with a proper current plan in place, and we can see if it's applicable then or doable then. Bottom line is, what I find on this is, you know, and it's not an attack on any person whatsoever, it's just, it comes down to me more of a money issue. We start talking about federal tax credits that they won't be able to realize because we rezone it instead of them following through with whatever they're working on. You know, it just seems there's a lot of gray area that I'm very uncomfortable with. And so it comes down to money, and I think that's one of the big reasons. You know, because the investors obviously are there to make money. I mean, you know, I'm a financial advisor. I understand that. My clients aren't happy when they lose money, and they want to make as much money as possible. But, you know, don't tell me the goal is conservation when I believe the goal is to maximize your profit.
The one thing I would like to also add, sir, if I could, is everything that we're proposing and everything that's been proposed out there for the last 5 years has been conservation. So even the lots that have been cut off are large lots, and they're conservation lots. Everything that the restrictions that have been added or proposed by Mr. Zenzow are also conservation types of actions. So I think that we've followed in line with the realities on the ground and what's been transpiring.
Other comments from staff or from commissioners? Gentlemen, there are a number of people here today. Is there anybody in this audience that you need to bring up for any clarifications of any points that you're not comfortable with? I have, personally, I've been, like Scott, we have a bevy of paperwork, and I've read this paperwork 2 or 3 times. I think I'm clear on the information that I wanted to see. There's been some additional information from Mr. Zenzow. There's been additional emails from a number of people expressing their opinions on this matter, so it boils down to us making a decision. I hate that Commissioner Taylor is not here today to hear this. Scott, I'm going to direct you, if you would, get hold of Commissioner Taylor and please kind of reiterate some of the points that were made here today. Wayne, you comfortable with everything we've heard today? Anybody you want to talk to?
I just think there's maybe a way, you know, to work it out for both parties. I always hope, you know, I always hope in these kind of situations that, you know, you don't run across a developer every day that can handle something like this. And so, you know, is there a way to work it out? If there's not, you know, then then we'll vote against it. But I just hope we could work it out somehow and come together, and if we each got to give a little bit. But the main thing is that we preserve the land around Lake James and Lake James.
All right, is there any specific directions you want to give to the county manager in this matter?
I guess Scott and them are, working on it, so, but that would be my direction, that we try to work something out here. It's not every day we're gonna be approached by a developer to do something like this.
Scott, any specific instructions that you want to give at this time?
I think I got most of the material information I need. Like I said, like I stated, as Scott stated again, I don't see why we should not rezone it, recommended by the staff, and then if you have a serious plan in place, come back and ask us to rezone it in the proper way. And so we know exactly what we're looking at instead of some antiquated information that's really not applicable.
Do you have anything? All right, for everybody's information, I did hold a public hearing on August the 20th, and there was information presented. We have been able to let Mr. Zenzow speak, and others at our meetings have also spoke to this matter. We have provided direction to you, Scott and Peter, what we want you to do, especially for Commissioner Taylor. So, as we had previously stated, we had moved to this item to be heard at our September 17th agenda as a decision item. Is everybody comfortable with what I've prepared for this item?
Johnny, you think they can get all the information together by our?
What specific information?
What other information did you need? I missed that.
Just, is there a compromise here, or is there?
Speak to that, Scott.
I'm not sure, honestly, what kind of compromise we can make, because there is no plan or agreement or anything before us that we can talk about. I think that you all know how community development operates and how I operate through the last 7 years. We like to compromise, and we like to work out good deals for all the parties. We like to be fair. I just don't have anything to move forward with that.
Well, if that's the case, and he doesn't have the information, then do we just take this off the table for right now? It looks to me like, how do we make a decision if we don't have both parties working together at this moment?
Okay, go back through the process again and where we're at right now, and explain exactly what we're voting on, and then explain exactly what Mr. Zenzow can do, or others, even beside Mr. Zenzow, probably, if they wanted to do something else. Break it down.
Okay, so what we're proposing right now is to rezone the land to Conservation District Low Density, which is one of our other zoning districts. That district allows one dwelling unit to 3.5 acres, which is consistent with what has been developing around the lake and around that area. What Mr. Zenzow would like to do is he purchased East Lake 2 and 3, and parts of that have been sold or developed by others into large lots. So we want to rezone those portions into Conservation District Low Density, because they've already been cut up into those types of zoning districts. Mr. Zenzow has an interest in tax credits and other types of things, because he is the fiduciary for an LLC that has investors. And because he has investors, they want to make sure that they have a return on investment. However, some of the returns on investment are based upon numbers, I believe, that are very high, which were part of the original East Lake 2 and 3. I don't think that those numbers today are real. So in other words, you can't take East Lake 2 and the plan, which allowed for 200, which was 275 acres originally, and it allowed for 2 dwelling units an acre or 550 units. Today, that wouldn't be realistic because you've lost some of that land, and also you don't have sewer, and there's just not a demand at Lake James to have that kind of density. We see it every day. It's hard, even in some of our most established neighborhoods like South Point and others. Once you're off the lake, or it's hard to get people to invest and to build out those lots. So we're quite comfortable, Wayne, with rezoning it to Conservation District low density. This plan that was put in place that you all voted on in 2004 was voted on because of a relationship with Crescent Communities, and they were doing a lot of good work. They were doing 1780. They were doing old wildlife on the other part of the lake and different things like that. And so this was really supposed to be a Crescent Communities project, and they started selling off those lands without a real plan in place to implement the East Lake plan. So what I'm saying is that most of the development you see doesn't really follow the East Lake plan as it is.
Again, I guess I just wish you all could work with Mr. Zinzat, and you know, we might have to give a little or whatever, but again, we want to develop the lake and keep it in a pristine, you know, I think we're all on board on that. I mean, it's a pristine lake and the property around it, but we do have a lot of property around the lake, and you know, how we develop that, you know, and I guess there's not a plan at this time, but I'd like to see it done in a good manner, and I know you all are, you know, gonna be on board for developing it in the right way, but is there some way we can work this out, I guess?
The only way I think that could transpire is with a new rezoning of planned residential mixed-use conditional district that is proposed by Mr. Zinzo. And what does that mean and what does it allow? And then that would go to the planning board and back to the Board of Commissioners.
And so that's gonna happen, I guess.
Well, no, that's just one thing that could
Yeah, all right.
happen, but I don't think Mr. Zinzo is interested in doing that process.
All right.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, as I said before, this item has been set for decision item on September the 17th, and it will be on that agenda as a decision item at that time. Is there any other discussion about this matter? Is everybody clear where we want to go with it?
Again, Johnny, do you think it's too early to put that on September 17th?
On September 17th, if you want to make another motion to postpone it to another date, you're at liberty to do that, sir.
Well, I just, you
The
know, think
current
there might
motion
be
is-
some, you know, I don't know how they've been in contact with Mr. Zinzo, but is there something, a compromise here or something, and can that be done that fast or whatever? Personally, I just like to see it put off, and I don't want to see us rush this thing.
Well, it is, we already voted to postpone it to September 17th. If you want to make another motion to postpone it again on September the 17th, am I correct, Mr. County Attorney? It's on for the decision item from that earlier motion, that another motion could be entertained for postponement.
That's right, at that time, yes.
Okay. So that would be what would have to happen on the 17th. If you want to postpone it again, you can make that motion.
What's the feeling of the board?
Okay, my personal feeling, I would vote on it today if I could. I think I know where I stand after all the information that I've gotten.
Yeah, I'm ready to move forward.
Yeah, all right. We'll leave it go then.
All right. Anything else on this matter before we close?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hearing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right, all in favor? We stand adjourned.